Hey guys, one of the things that I noticed when I turned 50 that I didn't see coming was this feeling that I've been carrying alone for many decades, and I didn't even know it. And in this video, I'm going to show you why so many Gen Xers, especially the men, feel this way and why it started when we were kids. So when we were kids back in the 80s, I remember getting a key from my mom, right? And I remember in grade two seeing the key on all the kids around their necks, right? So that was the first time that I actually was coming home to an empty home. I think that was around grade five was the first time that I did that, and at that time it seemed kind of normal, right? It seemed like all the kids were going through the same situation where they were just given a key around their neck and they just go home and left unsupervised for hours till their parents came home from work. And at times I actually thought was pretty cool at the time because I thought, wow, we'll get the whole house to myself, my brothers, and we just came home and I'd catch Batman, as soon as I got home at 3:30, and then the Flintstones and the Jetsons, and yeah, just make my own bowl of cereal and or toast or whatever, and eat something till mom and dad got home. And yeah, I mean, nobody told us what to do during that time, and I thought it was great. I did what I want as long as I didn't break anything or play with matches and stuff like that, and everything would be okay, right? But all that independence that we thought we had during that time in the 80s as latchkey kids, it came with a price. And I didn't realize this price till, I turned 50, right? And I think most of us, learned a lot by being a latchkey kid from the 80s. My mom always told me, anytime I asked for help, she would just say, you go figure it out yourself, right? You're big enough now, you're old enough now. Even though I was 8 or 9, right? My father used to say, you're old now, right? You should learn because if dad's not around, then you got to be the man of the house and take care of everything. And I used to think, well, okay, I mean, what do I do? Because there was not a playbook. I wasn't an adult yet, but I was told to grow up quickly and that I should know better, right? And so I learned not to complain. I learned that whatever problem you had, you deal with it, right? That no one's coming to help you, no one's coming to save you. And so I grew up like that in the 80s, right? And at times, I felt like my parents were only around to point out every flaw I had as a human being, like a boss that gave me a performance review just to tell me how incompetent I was at my job. So when I left home when I was 23 after I finished college, I thought that was normal too, to figure it out. You don't ask for help because asking for help means that I was not able to handle the pressures of real life. And as a Gen X man, being told that I cannot handle something was almost like a sign that you have failed, right? Failed as an adult, failed as a human being. And that's one thing that I wasn't allowed to show, right? Any kind of weakness, as per se, right? Any vulnerability. So I grew up thinking, don't ask for help by anyone, right? Don't burden people. And when I left home, I remember times that at that time I wasn't making a hell of a lot of money. And I remember arriving at the airport in my new city with $500 in my pocket. And never once did I ask my parents for help. And there was times when I had like absolute zero money. I paid the rent and had enough money to take the bus and pay for expenses, and that was really about it, right? And I remember one time I got really sick. I caught a viral infection, and I didn't tell anybody about it. And I was just in horrific pain, and I suffered through it probably about for a few months. And I never called home to tell my parents that I was sick. Nobody knew I was sick. And the only way that I got help was one of my roommates. She noticed that I was not feeling well and I was not looking well. And she noticed I was in a lot of discomfort. So she asked me if everything was okay. And she was the first one to do that. And I didn't tell her at first because I didn't want to burden her. But she found out that I was ill. So she had lent me the money to get the proper care and medication for it. And of course, after a few months, I was healthy again. But what was interesting about the whole thing was, I didn't once, even when I was, really, really, really hurting bad. And I think I would have been on my deathbed and I still wouldn't have told my parents till the last minute that I was probably going to be gone or dying or something like that. Because if they had lent me the money, in my mind, I felt they would have just held it over my head and just told me how much I owed them and that I was useless because I couldn't take care of myself, right? And I should be ashamed of myself as an adult for not being able to take care of myself. So for years, I thought that was just the right attitude to go with. It was the right attitude to grow up with. I thought it was made to toughen me, make me more resilient and prepared for real life. And it was. I have to say that upbringing, wasn't completely bad. I mean, I don't think I would have built my business without that feeling of doing stuff by myself. I worked long hours. I didn't complain. I handled all the stress. But I internalized a lot of things too. And at times, it was, I have to say, looking back, it's quite lonely because I had really no one to talk to, no one to share my problems with, what's on my mind. And quite honestly, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to seem weak. And I didn't want, I guess, people in the family to feel that I was the one that was the failure in the family. So a lot of these things went through my mind. Then about a few years ago, I had already turned 50 and I was in Waikiki Beach. And I was looking out in the ocean and it was a beautiful day and I noticed that I was just tense, like really, really tense. And I don't know why I caught on to that, but there was this uneasy feeling that I had and my mind was racing. I was thinking about work. Did I forget something? Was everything okay back home? And it kind of hit me that, I've gone on vacation every year. And it was always a dream of mine ever since I was a kid to be able to afford to go on vacation because we couldn't as kids. So we never went anywhere as kids. And I thought to myself, this is not good. I mean, here I am, I've got this beautiful vacation and every year I come home, I'm never refreshed. Not even once. I've always felt stressed the whole way through. And I was saying to myself, well, why? Why is this happening? So I started asking myself these questions and, it started to dawn on me that I trace it back to my childhood, being a latchkey kid, that handles everything. And, that kid that was left in the house alone and you had to deal with everything yourself, and always had to be the responsible one. And growing up that way, like I said, it gave me independence, it gave me resilience. It also gave me the ability to stay calm under pressure, right? And I'm not going to take away from that experience. But the vacation that I had in Waikiki, it showed me the other side of it, the flip side of it, and not everything from that period was to my benefit, right? And so looking back at it now, I'm thinking that, it even stole a lot of my adult years away without me knowing, because, feeling alone to deal with your problems and by yourself is a lot of emotional burden to hold on your shoulders, and to feel like to feel ashamed to ask for help, because I felt like it meant that I was weak. I mean, where do you get the chance to unload all this, all these pent up frustrations and so forth? And I think after 50, I start to notice that it was taking a heavy toll on my life, because now that I'm 50, I don't have the energy anymore to just push through and keep everything pent up inside, because having the inability to open up, you feel lonely, right? Even when people are around you, and I started feeling burnt out, so burnt out that it didn't go away on the weekends. It wasn't going away on vacations. And it made me realize that this all started when I was 9, 10 years old, when I was told to grow up, right? To wear that key around my neck proudly and come home to an empty house. And the fact that we're bombarded by all these notifications now, social media on our smartphones, it kind of makes us feel even less connected and even more lonely. So it's it's quite a interesting time in our lives, and I can see why a lot of us Gen X men feel so disconnected, because it's such a different world, right? So what did I do to start this? What did I do to make changes to my life? It didn't start overnight, but first I forgave my parents for not being there, during the times I needed them, because I understand that now that they're just trying to get by the best they thought they could and what they knew, right? Because they weren't a big part of my life growing up, and it wasn't easy. But I accept that was the way it was, right? And the other thing I started to do was I started accepting help from people, without feeling embarrassed or feeling that I was a burden, right? Because there are generally people that want to help me or want to help you, right? And it doesn't mean that you're a weak person because you accepted the help. I think it's all part of being a human being, right? And I also started to say things out loud and be more vocal about things as well if things weren't okay. And I think that was the hardest one, because for decades, the general rule was, don't show your feelings, because it's going to show weakness, right? Just deal with it by yourself internally and move on. So I don't think that's going to make you stronger, right? And I think it just makes life feel like a real drag, to tell you the truth, because you're dragging all those emotions, around on your shoulders. It's like a dark cloud that just keeps following you around. But now, I'm 57, and the last few years, I can say it's probably been something I haven't felt in my 30s and 40s, and that was, really true happiness, right? And the real meaning of true happiness. And these things I do things because I want to, not because someone expects it from me. And that to me is what living life is all about. So I want to hear from all of you 80s Gen X kids out there, latchkey kids. How was it for you walking into that empty house when you were younger, right? Back in your school days, and having to learn and figure out everything about life on your own. And how has it shaped your life? I'm curious to see, did you, carry that handle it all yourself mentality, into your adult life? I'm curious to hear your thoughts and your experiences. So please feel free to share in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. And feel free to check out my next videos. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Take care.